Okay, Danny, so that was the word brain wreck. What do you think of it?
I think it's a good word. It's a good word. We've been trying to focus on getting people to think. We all understand the analogy of a train wreck, and certainly our thinking has gone off the rails. And I think as a group, we're doing a good job of bringing this issue to focus. And brain wreck is a good way of focusing on the issue that we've got.
Do you have any other thoughts on it? I mean, I've had a chance to do a lot of talking. Do you have any thoughts, examples, anything that really comes to mind?
Well, Kijiji comes to mind because, as you know, it's a totally new word that didn't mean anything until somebody took it and gave it a meaning. And I think we can take brain wreck and give it a meaning. It's a lack of thinking. It's our ability to think. We're not teaching kids to think. We're not teaching anyone to think. And it's a wreck for our brains. And I think it's a good way of getting people to sort of catch their attention and say, yeah, what, like thinking doesn't seem to be working out anymore. There's no more common sense. We all agree on that. So we're having a brain wreck. I think it's a good word. My guess is you'll be in Webster's the next time they publish their dictionary.
That is something pretty funny. I just can't imagine, like, whoa, I made up a word that actually made it to the dictionary. Remember when ain't wasn't in the dictionary, and now it will be fabulous if brain wreck got in. I had one more thought on a brain wreck example, and that was so many people want to appease. Let's say, don't show the picture of the Prophet Muhammad, blah, blah, blah. We don't want to offend. And I go, that really struck me. That's a brain wreck. Everyone knows appeasement doesn't work. So everyone knows that. You give the bully your lunch money. Is the bully going to be happy? Oh, I got my lunch money. Well, no, the bully's going to come back for more lunch money, or for your other money, or for your sweater. And what people also don't know is that if they think that this appeasement will work, appeasement never worked with Germany, with the Nazis. It didn't work at all. It was just, we'll appease them, we'll appease them, we'll appease them. Appeasement is just a way of getting the ante up, getting more to be asked for. So my question, does that make sense to you? Anytime somebody says appeasement, we go brain rack.
Well, not necessarily appeasement. I think we could say that's a good example. We all know it doesn't work. There's a whole series of issues of things that some of us, particularly conservatives, agree that we agree they don't work. But to me, the brain wreck is, Ted Byfield said that the left have a singular inability to foresee the logical consequences of their actions. That's a brain wreck, is not being able to foresee the logical consequences of your actions. And what you talked about, appeasement, whether it's a minimum wage, whether it's trying to capture CO2, these are all things where they're all being promoted by folks who cannot foresee the logical consequences of their actions. That's what the brain wreck is not being able to understand sort of what farmers call the law of the harvest. What you seed or what you sow is what you harvest. Those are brain wrecks, not being able to connect the dots.
I totally agree with you, Danny. I think those are great examples. And I loved your thing about not being able to see the consequences. If you appease, the consequence is the demand goes up. It's clear, it's obvious, it's history, it's the school bully. And so I really like what you had to say there.
Thank you. You're right. If we want to keep thinking on the rails, like we have to start to foresee the consequences of our actions. And clearly the only way of foreseeing the consequences of your actions is to start thinking, which again continues to build on your theme of think or sink. And if we want to stop this ongoing train wreck, we have to start thinking. And as you said, think or sink. And that's what we intend to do. Think, learn to understand the consequences of our actions.
Thanks a lot. And now what I'm just going to close with, make comments. What are your thoughts? Send us your comments and they'll get posted.
That sounds great. Well, I think the examples, the comments we would like from listeners is, what examples do you have of issues where we clearly cannot foresee or are not foreseeing the consequences of our actions, and what do you think we should do about it? And of course, would you like to help us avert this train wreck? We always need help. We need moral support. We need financial support. We need to have a community be involved. These folks can send us their ideas. They could send us some financial support. They could ask their friends to be involved in our discussion.
I have one more idea because of what you said. People often accuse everybody of not foreseeing the consequences of their action. That's been the thing. There's climate change. You're not foreseeing CO2 and the consequences of your action. But very often what we have found, those that have bought all the first solutions, like Al Gore's An Inconvenient Truth, that the conclusions that they've come to are not logical, do not actually work. So that, they're telling us you don't foresee the consequences, and we're saying, oh, whoops, we've got more information. You're not taking in more information. So, for example, there's a huge anti-fracking lobby, and they're saying the people who are pro-fracking are not seeing the consequences of their action. The world will be devastated, huge devastation of groundwater, etc. But before you can get to consequences, you need to pay enough attention to facts. So I saw this brilliant movie, Frack Nation, and what it shows is that what the anti-frackings do in terms of consequences actually does not take into account the facts. So you can't leap to conclusions about consequences until you get enough facts. For example, every kid will first look at sun setting and think the sun is going down the hill. Okay, so their conclusion is the sun has gone there. You need to go further and get in more information, and it took us humans, I don't know, thousands or millions of years to figure out that no, the sun didn't set behind the hills, it was the earth that was turning. So another thing, before you can get to the consequences, we need people to stay open to lots and lots of facts.
Thank you. That leads me to one other thing on Twitter, and if people would like to be involved and get updates on what we're doing, they could follow me on Twitter at Danny Hozak. But one of the things that I continually say on Twitter, I've been calling people like Patrick Moore, the original founder of Greenpeace, and Tim Ball, who's a climatologist, and Bjorn Lomborg. I've been calling them old-fashioned scientists because they allow the facts to lead them to their conclusions, not their funding. And when you mentioned Mr. Gore's inconvenient truth, well, the truth is it's actually a convenient lie, not an inconvenient truth. And so to go back to follow up on what you're saying, we need a generation of people who let the facts lead them to their conclusions, not their emotions or the funding if they happen to be a scientist. We need to think or sink.
And that brings me to yet another thought, and that is, I got, how do you become politically correct? Rule 1, start with your feeling and disregard the facts. So the important thing to become politically correct is don't look at the facts. And so what we need to do is change that around. Yes, we need to acknowledge our emotions, but sometimes the first thing, like with climate change, is our feeling is, oh my God, we've got to do something. But as they found there's a great big specialist in terms of capping oil well fires. And what he does is he goes there and he studies the situation for a few days. And people go, and they're tearing their hair out and they want to do something. He says, no, I don't have enough information. And then when he can act, he's the most effective person because he's gotten in enough information. So if you lead with the emotions, no, we've got to get in enough facts. So I'm totally agreeing with you. Take care. See you next week.